Fire Emblem: The Sacred Stones is the 8th entry to the Fire Emblem series and is often regarded as an easier, newbie-friendly title. A great introduction to the series as a whole for those who have never played a Fire Emblem game, and an excellent choice for someone who has only played the newer Fire Emblem titles and wants to try older parts of the series. One thing that makes the Sacred Stones so newbie-friendly is the fact that the game throws some pretty solid powerhouses your way at the beginning of the game. Characters that, in some cases, don't even need training in order to make massive contributions to your war effort immediately. But what if instead of these amazing units, you received multiple copies of what is arguably the worst character in the game? Could you beat Fire Emblem: The Sacred Stones with an army of Amelias? I'm Zetetic, and I'm going to answer that question. First, let me explain the process for how I replaced every character with Amelia in a studious effort to torture myself. Every character that starts off unpromoted is turned into Amelia's default class, Recruit. Characters that normally start off promoted and are mounted on something, like Seth, Dusel, or Cyrene, start as female Cavaliers, one of the classes Amelia promotes into. Characters that start off as promoted foot units, like Salah or Innes, instead start as female Knights, another class Amelia can choose in this game. Next, characters receive base stats that are comparable to what an average Amelia would receive at the level which they are normally recruited, with consideration given to any promotion bonuses an Amelia promoted to Cavalier or Knight may receive. For example, Seth normally starts as a level 1 Paladin, but in my Oops All Amelias playthrough, Seth Amelia starts as a level 1 Cavalier, and would thus receive the average stats Amelia would have as a level 1 Cavalier. Calculating this is a matter of adding Amelia's growth rates to her base stats, and adding any promotion bonuses when applicable. As for each Amelia's growths, they were set equal to Amelia's standard growths, which are 60% HP, 35% strength, 40% skill, 40% speed, 50% luck, 30% defense, and 15% resistance. What makes Amelia so inefficient is her subpar potential in either an offensive or defensive role on average. The fact that she normally gains 9 extra levels essentially allows a player to gamble the time required to level Amelia up on the off chance she might get higher than average stats. Amelia's also received updated equipment. Whatever the base character receives would be changed into a lance of equivalent rank or function. For example, Mulder's Heal Staff becomes Mold Amelia's Iron Lance. Joshua's Killing Edge becomes Joshua Amelia's Killer Lance. Tomes were generally changed into Javelins, and so on and so forth. If a unit already had a suitable weapon for Amelia to use, then it didn't change, and usable personal weapons like Amelia's Regenleaf stayed. Each Amelia adopted equivalent weapon ranks from the character they replaced, so a character like Dazla, who starts with a B in Axes, would get a B in Lances instead. A couple of game-wide changes were introduced as well. Every recruit Amelia received a new item called an Amelia's Heal. An Amelia's Heal is an unsellable version of a Master's Heal, and was introduced due to limitations in the game's code with respect to automatic promotions. Only 3 units, the 3 original trainees, can automatically promote at level 10, so Amelia's Heals were added to grant every recruit the ability to promote if they were lucky enough to reach level 10 without suffering a horrible death. Additionally, all promotion items were changed so that I could use them to promote Cavaliers and Knights. Essentially, all promotion items functioned like Master's Heals for this playthrough. One thing that I did not change was each Amelia's support affinity. This was an oversight at first, and I thought about correcting it, but I thought that giving everyone Amelia's Thunder affinity would have made a minor difference in the end, if any at all. As for rules of play, I chose to play on the highest difficulty setting, and abstained from grinding in the Tower of Valmy, Lagdu Ruins, and the various monster encounters that appear on the map throughout the game. Benefiting from glitches, such as the enemy control glitch, or anything that might have been created due to my ineptitude in ROM hacking, were also not fair game. With all that introductory stuff out of the way, let's begin with the chapter-by-chapter review. Prologue. Normally, Paladin Seth makes quick work with the fighters chasing him and Erica away from Renee Castle. In this case, Cavalier Seth Amelia also makes quick work with the fighters here, but before she fights them, she has to drink some vulnerary juice to avoid dying. Though the chances of getting hit twice on the first turn are slight, this does indeed happen to me, though in retrospect, drinking the juice was a good call. Chapter 1. Seth Amelia shines here once again. She makes quick work with the fighter standing nearby and leaves the soldier alone. The soldier has silly AI, and only either moves or attacks each enemy phase, but never both. Even as Franz Amelia and Gilly Amelia join the party, the soldier is largely ignored as the growing pack of Amelias push toward the castle. Seth Amelia, with some difficulty, gets rid of the boss, allowing Eric Amelia to take the castle all by herself. Chapter 2. Things start to get rough here. There is no way to rescue Ross Amelia and Garcia Amelia, since Vanessa Amelia does not have wings and therefore cannot fly over the mountain. so they are doomed to die in an embarrassing fashion. The other problem here is the pair of brigands that come out from the mountains to the south of the Amelia army's starting position. As far as I can tell, the only way to take care of this map is to let Amelia handle the majority of the fighting, and let everyone else chill in the forest and do whatever it is people do for fun in Magville. Chapter 3. Amelia comes with a chest key with 5 uses to replace Colm's lockpicks. A combination of clever positioning and excessive turtling allows Amelia to take the brunt of the 2-range combat, while the other Amelias throw javelins at Amelia's melee range enemies. This is a tactic that I end up using a lot to level up my weaker Amelias throughout this run. Amelia takes out the boss, and we skip the chests to save our chest keys for better things. Chapter 4. The monsters in this map are like pinatas full of experience points for our recruit Amelias. Gilly Amelia, being closest to promotion having started at level 4, gets top priority for level ups so that she can use the Amelia seal to promote into a Cavalier. La Amelia observes us from atop a cliff only to ride away into the sunset. The boss is easy peasy lemon squeezy. Chapter 5. This chapter feels like the first real challenge of this challenge. Recruit Amelias often have to take turns taking damage from soldiers, brigands, and fighters, while Gilly Amelia and Seth Amelia do the heavy lifting. After recruiting Joshua Amelia and saving all the villages, it just becomes a matter of using Seth Amelia to apply the Armor Slayer to Sar's forehead. The original One True Amelia is kind enough to leave us a surprise tool that will help us later. Chapter 5X. This side quest feels like the second challenge of this run. Horse Amelia is a Cavalier now, Amelia fortunately still has Regenleaf, and Kyalia and Ford Amelia are still disappointing. Use this chapter to get Amelia some much needed experience. Horse Amelia throws javelins at the final boss, who sits on the throne with just a steel blade, and Kyalia finishes him off. We then confiscate Horse Amelia's weapons for no particular reason. Chapter 6. Yay, Fog of War. We give Seth Amelia a much-deserved promotion into a Paladin, as well as a Dragon Shield for extra defense. Considering how well she's performed, it makes sense to give her everything she needs to make her even better. Our goal is to make sure that we can kill the boss before the evil spider turns an innocent family into a protein-based snack. This is another point where a flyer would have been great. In this case, it's to either kill the spider or to rescue the family, but the lack of one forces us to improvise. After trying a broad approach a few times where units are lost, I instead just deploy our 4 best units. 3 of them hide in the forest, while Seth Amelia rushes forth to deal with the boss. When the young girl says, "Please, somebody help," she coins the tagline for this entire playthrough. I managed to save the family, but shows their gratitude by giving us a very special arrow. I then realize there's a slight bug with using the Amelia seal on the world map. Chapter 7. I promote Molder Amelia into Boulder Amelia. Chapter 7 actually turns out to be pretty easy, and we managed to get Eric Amelia to level 10, which makes her a perfect candidate for promotion. After a cautious use of the Amelia seal, Eric Amelia becomes a Cavalier, so she can train up her sword rank and use Siglinde, the personal weapon she gets later in the game, more effectively later on. Chapter 8. Send Seth Amelia forward, let everyone else do the work that they can handle near the starting position. It's basically the strategy for this chapter. Anticipating Amelia's arrival, I wanted Seth Amelia to be on hand to ensure she didn't get slaughtered. After that, she rode off to deal with other stuff around the castle, while the rest of the Amelia team slowly made their way through the narrow hallway on the west side of the map. I lost a mistake to a mistake, looted the chests with the chest keys I was saving up, and killed the chapter's boss fairly easily. Chapter 9. With great reluctance, but with the promise of a guaranteed angelic robe and the ability to use Regenleaf some more for easy kills, I go with Amelia's route. This choice does offer other advantages too, like early recruitment of the one true Amelia. Nobody falls asleep, and we're able to open the door to the fort and confront everyone inside. After a near-death experience, Amelia takes a back seat to the other Amelias as they put an end to Geb's tyranny. Chapter 10. This chapter is rough. We lose bad units and bad ways and restart, but eventually we get far enough without making too many mistakes. Amelia uses Regenleaf to deal with most of the Cavalier reinforcements that come from behind, saving one as target practice for Amelia, while Seth Amelia goes off on her own to rescue Deuce Amelia and her gang of green units. Also, Cormagilia is stranded on an island. Oh well. Chapter 11. Phantom Ship. What a great map. It's got Fog of War, a bunch of flying 1-2 range enemies, and swarms of reinforcements. After a few defensive attempts at this map in which literally everyone died, I decided to take a more aggressive approach. Setting Seth Amelia onto the monster ship and using everyone else to hold the boarding planks or sacrifice themselves so that better Amelias wouldn't take damage. Our biggest loss was Gilly Amelia, who I promoted to Great Knight for this one chapter, so that she could take one extra hit from one of the promoted Revenants before the monsters poured onto our ship. This map claimed the lives of so many Amelias that it made me wonder if the rest of the game would be possible. With the disaster of Chapter 11 just barely behind us, we jump onto Chapter 12. We barely get off the ship before we come under attack from all sides, lose more Amelias to gargoyles, and it's a long turtling game before we get to the end. Grab Marissa Amelia and move on. At least Amelia has been hardened enough by battle and loss that she can handle her own against a few archers and mages. She's strong enough to get the final boss kill. Chapter 13. Amelia handles most of the map on her own, and is especially capable at dealing with the Pegasus Knight reinforcements. The other Amelias work together to trap a sniper to poke with sharp sticks, in an effort to gain gobs of experience points. Since this is a route map for some reason, we have to pull a pro-gamer move and kill everybody. With Selena's Bolting Tome only used up, it's easy to bring Amelia in to deal with her. Chapter 14. This is normally a chapter where you want someone who can use a Restore Staff. Unfortunately, none of our Amelias can figure out how to use a staff, so we're stuck having to take our chances with Sleep and Berserk staff wielders. Amelia handles one side of the map all by herself, while Amelia and Amelia take the other side. Amelia slowly walks away with the Costco membership card, leaving us with no ability to buy weapons from Anna. Amelia and Amelia earn promotions to Great Knight. To deal with the Berserk staff users, I hide most of the Amelias in the treasure room, and send Amelia directly towards the throne room. To use scientific terms, she goes absolutely bonkers and murders the druids that experimented on her, then nearly takes herself out of the equation against Vigard. Killing Vigard is a matter of bonking him on the head with an armor slayer and a hammer. Chapter 15. I tried to bring everyone to Scorched Sand, but this merely led to you and Amelia catching a hand axe with her face, and Amelia burning to death. I then took a more cautious approach, bringing only the most capable units with us. Amelia and Amelia were like two peas in a pod, handling all the enemies in the south all by themselves. Sal Amelia and Ines Amelia sacrificed themselves to keep Eric Amelia safe in Johanna until Seth Amelia could ride to rescue her. It took a great deal of time, but Amelia took care of Kalok and Valter got done in by Amelia. Chapter 16. Seth Amelia's role here is to ride into the castle and kill most of the enemies by herself, especially targeting the druids and sages that pose a problem with her high damage output and sleep staves. Amelia and Amelia, with a little help from Eric Amelia, handle the reinforcements that appear outside of the castle, so that they don't pursue the gang inside. Amelia finally deals with that damn traitorous clone, Force Amelia. The one true Amelia comes along so that she can poke priests with sticks while they heal each other. As for Recruit, she goes from level 5 to level 10 and promotes into a knight, and continues grinding until she reaches level 9. Chapter 17. River of Regrets turns out almost as badly as Phantom Ship. This chapter separates the strong Amelias from the weak and neglected Amelias. Without a way to recruit Cyrene Amelia, thanks to everyone who can talk to her being dead, I ignore the side objective, and rush Seth Amelia forward with a Dragon Spear to kill as many Wyvern Riders as possible. Unfortunately, Seth Amelia is just one Amelia, and the Wyvern Riders fly around her to eat the civilians I pretended to forget about protecting. After failing to stop a blatant war crime, I used my bad Amelias to shield my good Amelias from attacks, while the good Amelias slowly cleaned up the Wyvern Riders, heroes, and druids swarming us. At least the one true Amelia was protected and gained a few levels off of this disaster. In comparison to the rest of the chapter, dealing with Leon here was a piece of cake. Chapter 18. This was actually kind of a relaxing chapter compared to the last couple of chapters. Seth Amelia, as usual, ditched the group to go off to kill monsters and break eggs by herself, while the rest of the incredibly small gang, now just Amelia, Amelia, Eric Amelia, the one true Amelia, and an undeployed Amelia, worked together to clear out the south and east parts of the map. Nobody got turned into stone or shadow shot from a distance too hard, so it wasn't too much trouble. Chapter 19. This chapter started off a bit rough at first, but got easier later on. Seth Amelia rode off to steal some of Rouston's treasure from one treasure room by herself, while the other Amelias worked together to pick up the Pope and drop him into his other treasure room. Most of the Amelias repelled Reeve's force with ease from the treasure room, while Seth Amelia sat on the throne, attracting a growing force of enemies that tried and failed to hit her. 13 turns later, Reeve accused me of using cheesy strats and ran away. Chapter 20. This chapter was a chore. The easiest and best way to solve this chapter is to warp someone who can kill Morva in one round, over to Morva, then kill Morva, then warp Ephraim or Erica over to seize the Black Temple, disappointing Reeve once again. However, our Amelias are too Amelia-ish to figure out how to use a warp staff, so we have to do this chapter the gratuitously violent way. Cutting through swaths of enemies is mostly not a problem, but the Amelia army gets stalled close to the Black Temple. After about an hour of slaughtering reinforcements turn after turn and running out various enemies' long-range attacks, Amelia melts Reeve with her lance and destroys Morva with a few pokes from Vidofni. With the Amelia army in the Black Temple proper, it was time for the finale. I deployed Mermelia for this chapter, knowing fully well that she would not survive it. I used her to bait a Gorgon into getting her stoned, and stole the monster's angelic robe, which I gave to Amelia. After that, the Amelia army cautiously made its way forward. Amelia dodged an excessive number of shadow shots, and Ephraim repeatedly buried Garm into her old friend's ribcage until he surrendered his life to us. But of course, the game doesn't end there. The Amelia army must take on the Demon King. After some dancing just out of range with the Demon King, we managed to do some damage to him, then pull our heavy hitters out of the Demon King's range with our paladins. Amelia takes an unfortunate attack, which leaves him with negative hit points. The one true Amelia helps. With one final swing of Ephraim's mighty Garm, we finally beat Sacred Stones with an army of Amelias. Believe it or not, this playthrough was a lot of fun. I'd like to do something else like it again sometime. If you have suggestions about Fire Emblem games with bad characters I can clone to try to beat the game, let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more stuff like this, and like the video if you enjoyed it or learned something from it. Feel free to dislike the video if you didn't enjoy it or didn't learn anything from it. If you'd like to see the unabridged version of this playthrough, I have an entire Let's Play series in the Oops All Amelias playlist on this channel, which you can enjoy at your leisure. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.